The wind howled through Carver's pumpkin patch, carrying the sour stink of rotting gourds and damp earth. It was Halloween night, 2025, in rural Indiana, and the patch was a Halloween mecca for the small town of Willow Creek. Families carved jack-o'-lanterns, kids squealed on hay rides, and teens whispered dares about the corn maze's haunted paths. Sophie, a 17-year-old with a knack for horror movies and a permanent scowl, was stuck chaperoning her 13-year-old cousin, Tyler, who'd begged to come. Dressed in a black leather jacket and boots, Sophie clutched her phone, half listening to a horror podcast about cursed farmlands as Tyler, in a zombie costume, bounced with excitement. As dusk bled into night, the patch's festive glow, orange string lights and flickering pumpkins, felt wrong. Sophie noticed the scarecrows first. They loomed among the pumpkins, their burlap faces stitched with jagged mouths, straw limbs sagging under tattered coats. One, propped near the maze entrance, seemed to lean toward her, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Tyler laughed, tossing a candy corn at it. "Creepy, huh? Bet it moves at midnight." Sophie forced a smirk, but her skin prickled. The scarecrow's eyes, two black buttons, seemed to glint, like they were watching. A groundskeeper, his face weathered like old bark, shuffled by with a pitchfork. His eyes, sunken and yellow, locked on Sophie. "Don't stay past dark," he croaked, his voice barely human. "The patch gets hungry." Tyler giggled, thinking it was part of the act, but Sophie caught the man's trembling hands. She muttered, "Weird old guy," but her podcast's latest episode about blood pacts with the earth echoed in her mind. She tugged Tyler toward the maze, hoping to burn off his energy and leave. The corn maze was a claustrophobic tangle of dry stalks, the air thick with dust and a faint, metallic tang. Jack-o'-lanterns lined the paths, their carved faces glowing without candles, casting shadows that writhed like living things. Tyler darted ahead, his zombie makeup smudging as he whooped. Sophie yelled for him to slow down, but the maze swallowed her voice. Then she heard it, a low, rhythmic chant, like voices buried under the earth, seeping through the corn. Her phone cut out, the podcast replaced by static. "Tyler!" she shouted, her heart thudding. No answer. She found him in a clearing, frozen, staring at a pile of pumpkins stacked into a grotesque altar. Their carved faces, eyes too wide, mouths twisted in silent screams, pulsed with a sickly orange light. Vines, thick and vein-like, coiled around the base, twitching as if breathing. "Sophie?" Tyler whispered, his voice small. "They're looking at us." Before she could grab him, the ground shuddered, and a scarecrow stepped from the shadows. Its burlap face split into a grin, straw spilling like maggots. Sophie screamed, yanking Tyler back as the thing raised a rusted sickle, its button eyes gleaming with malice. They ran, the maze twisting around them, paths looping impossibly. The chanting grew louder, words in a tongue Sophie didn't know but felt in her gut, like a warning of something ancient and ravenous. More scarecrows appeared, their movements jerky yet deliberate, closing in from all sides. One's head twitched, straw neck snapping as it turned to follow them. Tyler sobbed, clutching Sophie's hand. She remembered her favorite horror movie, The Thing. Trust no one, destroy the source. "The altar!" she gasped. "It's controlling them!" They stumbled back to the clearing, the altar's glow now blinding, the pumpkins' faces contorting like they were alive. Vines lashed out, snagging Tyler's ankle. He screamed as they dragged him toward the altar, the pumpkins' mouths opening wider, revealing rows of jagged, bone-like teeth. Sophie dove, slicing the vines with a rock, her hands slick with sap that burned like acid. The scarecrows closed in, their sickles scraping the ground, their chants now a deafening roar. Sophie's mind raced. Every horror movie had a rule: break the heart of the evil. "Tyler, smash the pumpkins!" she yelled, shoving him toward the altar. She grabbed a sickle from a fallen scarecrow, its handle cold as a corpse, and swung at the nearest one. The blade sank into its chest, spilling straw in something wet, black, and foul-smelling. The scarecrow staggered, but didn't fall, its face twisting into a snarl. Tyler threw rocks, each pumpkin exploding with a wail that shook the maze. The vines thrashed, lashing at Sophie's legs, tearing her jeans. She hacked at the altar, pumpkin guts splattering, their screams piercing her skull. The ground split, revealing a pit beneath the altar, filled with bones, small, human, tangled with scraps of costumes. A wave of nausea hit Sophie as she realized the truth. The patch wasn't just cursed, it was alive, feeding on kids who wandered too far, its scarecrows, its puppets. A new scarecrow loomed, taller, its face a patchwork of burlap and human skin, eyes glowing like embers. It spoke, its voice a chorus of the damned. "The hunger must be fed." Sophie's scream caught in her throat as it lunged, sickle aimed at her chest. She dodged, shoving Tyler behind her, and drove her stolen sickle into the creature's neck. Black ooze sprayed, burning her skin. Tyler smashed the last pumpkin, and the altar collapsed, the glow fading. The scarecrows froze, then crumbled, their straw bodies dissolving into ash. The maze opened, a path leading to the festival's distant lights. Sophie and Tyler ran, not looking back, the chanting now a faint whisper on the wind. They burst into the festival, where families sipped cider, oblivious. Sophie grabbed a deputy at the bonfire, babbling about scarecrows and bones. He humored her, searching the maze but found only mud and broken pumpkins. The groundskeeper was gone, his pitchfork stuck in the dirt like a grave marker. The festival owner, pale and sweating, insisted it was kids playing pranks, but Sophie saw him pocket a piece of burlap with that jagged, toothed grin stitched on it. Back home, Sophie couldn't shake the nightmares. She scoured the internet, finding old articles about missing kids at Carver's Patch, always on Halloween, always blamed on runaways. A grainy photo showed a scarecrow with the same skin patch face, dated 1950. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. A text from an unknown number, a video of her and Tyler running through the maze filmed from above. Impossible. The chanting played faintly, and a voice whispered, "You fed it. It's still hungry." Halloween night in Detroit's East Side was a jagged symphony of chaos. Jack-o'-lanterns flickered on sagging porches, their carved grins uneven, as kids in dollar store costumes swarmed the cracked sidewalks, their laughter mingling with distant firecrackers and the wail of sirens. The air smelled of burnt leaves and cheap candy, the streets alive with the raw energy of a city that never quite slept. Marcus, a 25-year-old ex-boxer turned youth counselor, led a group of 5 teens from the community center through the madness. His broad frame, scarred from years in the ring, moved with purpose, his eyes scanning every alley. He'd promised their parents a safe trick-or-treat, a fleeting escape from the neighborhood's grind. His Glock, tucked under his hoodie, was a silent reassurance. The teens, Jaden, 14, in a torn Spider-Man mask, Kiara, 15, with the witch's cape, Malik, 13, dressed as a zombie, and twins Aisha and Amari, 14, and matching vampire fangs, clutched plastic bags, darting from house to house. The block pulsed with life, boom boxes blaring, porch lights casting long shadows, and teens egging abandoned lots. But Marcus felt a prickle, like a cold finger tracing his spine. Across the street, under a flickering streetlight, stood a figure in a black trench coat holding a plastic pumpkin bucket. Its face was hidden by a cracked clown mask, the kind you'd find in a gas station bargain bin, its painted smiles smudged. The bucket hung still, too heavy for candy, clinking faintly as the figure shifted. "Keep moving," Marcus muttered to Jaden, who'd paused to stare. "Just some weirdo," Jaden said, but his voice wavered. Kiara, adjusting her cape, whispered, "He's been there since we left the center." Marcus's boxer instincts, read the room, sense the threat, flared. He'd seen gangbangers blend into Halloween crowds before, but this felt different. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just watched, its mask a pale smear in the dark. They hit a row of houses, the kids laughing as they scored Tootsie Rolls and glow sticks. The clown trailed them, always a block away, bucket clinking like a metronome. Marcus kept his hand near his Glock, his pulse steady, but his gut uneasy. At a corner store, its neon sign buzzing like a dying fly, the group stopped for sodas. The clown was closer now, standing across the street, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, like a puppet with loose strings. Marcus told the kids to stay inside and stepped out. "You following us?" he called, voice low but firm. The figure didn't answer, just raised the bucket slightly, the clink louder now, deliberate. Then it lowered the bucket, revealing a glint of metal inside, knives, zip ties, a coil of rope. Marcus's blood froze. This wasn't a prank. "Kids, back," he barked, hands on his Glock. The figure tilted its head further, the mask's cracks splitting wider, revealing darkness beneath, not a face. It whispered, a voice like static. "You're not chosen." Marcus's heart thudded. He herded the kids down the street, the festive chaos now a nightmare. Jack-o'-lanterns seemed to leer, their candlelight flickering like eyes. The clown followed, its steps silent but unyielding, always just out of reach. They ducked into an alley, the air thick with the stench of rotting trash and damp concrete. The kids' breathing was ragged, their candy bags dragging. Kiara clutched Marcus's arm. "It's not human," she whispered, her witch cape snagging on a dumpster. Jaden, trying to play tough, scoffed, but his hands shook. Marcus scanned the alley's shadows, the clown's silhouette gone. But the clinking echoed, closer now, from somewhere above. He looked up, seeing nothing but the fire escape's rusted bars. "We need to get to the community center," he said, voice steady despite the dread pooling in his gut. The center, a brick fortress 2 blocks away, had locks, a panic button, and a chance to hold out. The streets were quieter now, porch lights winking out, the neighborhood sinking into a post-Halloween hush. The clinking followed, faint but unyielding, like a heartbeat in the dark. They reached the community center, its faded mural of smiling kids a cruel irony. Marcus fumbled the keys, unlocking the door as the kids piled in. The gym was a cavern of shadows, basketball hoops swaying slightly, though no breeze stirred. He barricaded the entrance with benches, the kids huddled near the bleachers. Kiara tried her phone. Dead signal. "It's jamming us," she said, voice trembling. Marcus nodded, recognizing the tactic, but this felt wrong, like the air itself was against them. A soft tap-tap-tap came from the front door, slow, deliberate. The kids froze. Marcus gripped his Glock, motioning for silence. The tapping moved to a window, then the back door, circling the building like a predator sniffing out weakness. Malik whispered, "What does it want?" Marcus didn't know, but the clown's words, "You're not chosen," gnawed at him. He scanned the gym, its corners too dark, the shadows too thick. Aisha pointed to a trophy case, its glass reflecting a flicker of movement. A cracked clown mask, just outside, staring in. The glass shattered, the mask vanishing before Marcus could aim. A low laugh, like gravel scraping, filled the air, not from one spot, but everywhere. The kids screamed, scrambling back. Marcus grabbed a baseball bat from the equipment room, handing it to Jaden. "Stay together. Watch the doors." He checked the panic button in the office, dead, wires sliced clean. The center felt like a trap, its walls closing in. The tapping returned, now inside, from the boiler room below. "Stay here," Marcus told the kids, gripping his gun. Kiara shook her head. "We're not splitting up. That's how people die." Reluctantly, he let them follow, descending the creaking stairs to the boiler room. The air was damp, reeking of rust and something sour, like spoiled meat. Pipes groaned, masking the clinking, but Marcus felt it, eyes on him, heavy, unblinking. A single bulb flickered, casting jagged shadows. On the floor, scrawled in chalk, was a list. The kids' names, each with a check mark, except for Marcus's. Beside it lay a pile of candy wrappers, some fresh, some crusted with old blood. The clinking stopped. Silence pressed in, thicker than the dark. Then a voice, soft as a whisper, but sharp as a blade. One must be chosen. The clown stood at the far end of the room, its mask now split fully, revealing a void where a face should be. Just darkness, swirling, hungry. Its trench coat hung wrong, like it cloaked something not human. The kids screamed, but the sound died, swallowed by the air. Marcus fired, the bullet passing through the figure, hitting the wall. It didn't flinch, just stepped closer, its bucket spilling more zip ties, each tagged with a name. Marcus grabbed a pipe wrench, swinging it through the figure. It dissolved into smoke, reforming behind him, the void face inches from his own. He stumbled, shoving the kids toward the fire exit. The door wouldn't budge, sealed by something sticky, like sap. The clown's laugh grew, echoing in their skulls. Kiara, trembling, pointed to the chalk list. It wants a sacrifice. Like in those old stories, something takes one person to leave the rest. Marcus's mind raced. He'd fought men, not monsters, but he knew fear was the enemy. "We don't give in," he growled, grabbing a can of paint thinner from a shelf. He doused the chalk list, striking a match. The flames roared, and the clown shrieking as the list burned. The air shifted, the exit door creaking open. "Go," he yelled, pushing the kids out. The clown lunged, its fingers grazing Aisha's arm, leaving black burns. Marcus fired again, the bullets useless, but the fire spread, licking at the coat. It recoiled, vanishing into the smoke. They burst into the alley, the city's lights a faint hope. The kids flagged a passing car, its driver calling 911. Police arrived, their flashlights sweeping the center. They found no clown, no list, just scorch marks and candy wrappers. The cops called it a gang prank, but their eyes lingered on the burns on Aisha's arm. Unexplainable. The kids swore they saw the clown's shadow in the alley, but it was gone. Weeks later, the neighborhood felt cursed. Jaden found a cracked clown mask in his locker, its eye scratched out. Kiara woke to clinking outside her window, her phone showing a photo of her sleeping, taken from inside her room. Marcus installed cameras, but they caught nothing but static, sometimes a flicker of a pumpkin bucket. Halloween 2026 approached, and a package arrived at the community center. A single zip tie, etched with Marcus's name. The clown hadn't chosen that night, but it was still out there, waiting, its shadow creeping closer with every dusk. The Seattle suburb of Maple Grove was a Halloween postcard on October 31st, 2025. Jack-o'-lanterns grinned from porches, fake cobwebs draped over manicured shrubs, and kids in costumes swarmed the sidewalks, their laughter echoing under orange streetlights. Nate, a 30-year-old single dad with tired eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow, stood on his new front porch, handing out candy to witches and superheroes. His 10-year-old daughter, Chloe, was out trick-or-treating with her friend's family, her vampire cape flapping as she'd run off earlier. Nate's small craftsman house, still half unpacked, felt too big without her. Across the street, the neighbor's house loomed, windows boarded, lawn choked with weeds, a relic the locals avoided. "Old Man Carver disappeared years ago," a neighbor had whispered at the block party. "Probably dead in there." Nate shrugged it off. Halloween gossip. By 9 p.m., the trick-or-treaters thinned and Nate sank onto his couch, the TV flickering with Halloween muted. Chloe was due back soon. A faint tap, tap, tap came from the back door, barely audible over the wind rattling the pines. Nate paused, assuming it was latecomers. He opened the door to an empty deck,
the backyard dark except for a single Tootsie Roll wrapper skittering across the grass. "Kids," he muttered, locking the door. But the air felt wrong, too still, like the night was holding its breath. 10 minutes later, the tapping returned, sharper, at the basement window. Nate's stomach twisted. His Ring camera app showed offline. He grabbed a flashlight, its beam cutting through the kitchen's dim glow. The backyard was empty, but the neighbor's boarded house seemed closer, its silhouette jagged against the moon. Chloe burst through the front door, her vampire makeup smudged, candy bag bulging. "Dad, I saw someone," she gasped. "In their yard, a guy in a gray hoodie just staring at me." Nate's jaw tightened. He'd moved here for safety, not this. "Stay inside," he told Chloe, grabbing a baseball bat from the closet. He stepped onto the front lawn, the neighborhood now silent, porch lights off. The boarded house stared back, its windows like blind eyes. Footprints fresh in the mud led from his yard to the neighbor's fence. Against every instinct, Nate crossed the street, bat in hand, and peered through a gap in the boards. The house was dark, but a faint glow pulsed from the basement, like a heartbeat. A shadow moved inside, tall, hooded, gone in a blink. Back home, Chloe clutched her phone, eyes wide. "My friend said the old guy who lived there used to watch kids on Halloween, like he was picking one." Nate's blood ran cold. He checked the locks, but the tapping started again, now with the living room window. The blinds swayed, though no wind blew. He yanked them up, nothing but his own reflection, distorted, like something stood behind him. Chloe screamed, pointing at the TV. The screen, off moments ago, showed static, and in it, a faint outline of a hooded figure, head tilted, watching. Nate unplugged the TV, heart hammering. "Chloe, upstairs now." She obeyed, clutching her candy bag. He dialed 911, but the call dropped, his phone screen flashing, no signal. The Ring app blinked back online, showing a live feed of his backyard, except it wasn't his backyard. It was the neighbor's. The camera somehow pointed at their basement window, where a figure in a gray hoodie stood, holding a knife, its blade catching the moonlight. The feed cut out. Nate grabbed Chloe, barricading them in her bedroom. The tapping became a rhythmic pounding, circling the house. Front door, back door, windows, like a predator testing every entry. He whispered to Chloe, "Stay quiet, we're okay." But the lie tasted bitter. The pounding stopped, replaced by a low hum, like a voice chanting through the walls. Nate's flashlight flickered, revealing scratches on the bedroom door. Inside, fresh, like claws had raked it. He remembered the neighbor's house, the glow. "Chloe, we need to know what's over there." She shook her head, tears streaming, but followed him. He grabbed the kitchen knife, leaving the bat, too clumsy. They slipped out the back, crossing to the boarded house under cover of darkness. The air reeked of mildew and something sharper, like blood. Nate pried a board loose, revealing a broken window. Inside, the house was a tomb. Dusty furniture, walls streaked with mold, and a staircase leading down. The hum grew louder, vibrating in his chest. "Stay here," he told Chloe, but she clung to him, whispering, "I'm not staying alone." They descended, the basement air thick, the glow brighter now, a sickly yellow from a single bulb swinging on a cord. Mirrors lined the walls, dozens of them, reflecting not Nate and Chloe, but warped eyeless faces in gray hoodies, mouths open in silent screams. In the center sat a chair, stained with dark splotches, surrounded by candy wrappers and kids' toys. A doll, a toy car, a single sneaker. The hum became words. "Choose or be chosen." A figure stepped from the shadows, its hoodie soaked in something wet, its face hidden but for a grin too wide, too sharp. Nate swung the knife, but the figure vanished, reappearing in a mirror, then another, its laughter a low buzz. Chloe screamed as the mirrors rattled, reflecting more figures, crowding closer. Nate smashed one, glass shattering, but the figure didn't flinch. It was behind him now, breath cold on his neck. "Run!" he yelled, shoving Chloe toward the stairs. The figure lunged, knife slashing Nate's arm, blood dripping hot. He stabbed back, hitting nothing but air. The mirrors pulsed, the figures stepping out, their forms flickering like bad TV signals. Chloe tripped, candy spilling, and a figure grabbed her ankle. Nate roared, tackling it, but it dissolved into dust, only to reform in another mirror. He realized the truth. The house was a trap, feeding on fear, binding souls to its mirrors. He grabbed Chloe, sprinting upstairs as the house groaned, walls cracking like bones. Outside, the neighborhood was dark, street lights out. He dialed 911 again, no signal. The figures followed, their knives scraping the porch. Nate remembered a horror movie trick. Fire disrupts energy. He grabbed a propane lantern from his garage, lit it, and hurled it at the neighbor's house. Flames erupted, the mirrors shattering in a chorus of screams. The figures froze, then melted into the fire, their hoodies burning away to reveal nothing but shadows. Sirens wailed as a police cruiser screeched up, drawn by a neighbor's call about the fire. Nate and Chloe collapsed on their lawn, gasping. The cops found no bodies, no knives, just charred mirrors and candy wrappers. The boarded house was gutted, but the fire didn't spread. The officer's report called it vandalism, but his eyes lingered on Nate's bloody arm. "Stay away from that place," he muttered. Days later, Nate and Chloe moved to an apartment downtown. The suburb felt poisoned. But at night, Nate's new TV flickered, showing static and a faint hooded outline. Chloe found a candy wrapper under her bed, not hers, with the mirror shard tucked inside, reflecting her face, but her eyes were gone. The tapping started again, faint at the apartment window. Nate installed new locks, but every Halloween, he checks the mirrors, knowing something's still watching, waiting for them to choose.